Today, we're taking a deep dive into a tool that's grabbing everybody by storm. But my question today is this thing worth it? Or are you better suited with your standard pocket hole jig? So join me today as we take a deep dive into this Kreg Rebel pocket hole joiner. So there are a ton of videos out there, all from your favorite YouTubers, talking about this viral new tool. But there's one major problem with all those videos, as most of those creators got this tool for free. But that isn't the case with me, and I've even got the receipts to prove it. And this thing wasn't cheap, and I've already got a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But let's first talk about the range of prices for these pocket hole jigs, starting with Old Reliable. Now this is the first pocket hole jig that I ever purchased, and frankly it's a steal for only 99 bucks. And for most woodworking, that's all you're gonna need, but there is an upgrade starting at about 150 bucks. And then you start to get into the more professional models, which is what I would classify this one as. And I already mentioned I spent $300 on this tool alone. But guess what? That $300 doesn't include a battery or a charger. And being the idiot that I am, I assumed this would come with this new tool. So I had to purchase it afterward, and it comes in at 130 bucks. And I don't even have it yet, but it's supposed to be delivered today, so hopefully we can test out this tool. But at the 300 bucks and the 130, I'm all in with this tool at 430 bucks. Which means at this point, I could have bought their highest end tool, the Kreg Foreman, which retails for about 400 bucks. And yes, I could have bought their kit, which retails for 350 bucks, but it was completely out of stock. But enough about that, let's dive into this tool and see what it's all about. This is the Kreg Rebel Pocket Hole Joiner. Let's give it a look. Speaking of Kreg, I just bought a used time machine from his list. Yep, they sure don't make them like they're going to. So let's start off by diving into this box and see what comes with this $2.99 tool-only version. So right off the bat, you're obviously going to get the Rebel joiner, which at first glance appears to be very well made. But that's obviously not all you're going to get. Let's take a look at the accessories that come with this tool. Just like with any other pocket hole jig, you're going to get a driver bit and a drill bit, and these are the same driver and drill bits that you would get with a normal Kreg pocket hole jig. But there's also a couple of other accessories. The first item is the dust collection chute, which in my opinion is pretty small. So small, in fact, my Festool hose, which is my main dust collection, barely works with this tool, and the Festool hose actually wraps around that dust collection chute. And I do mean barely, and this is the only dust collector that I have that will work with this tool. Even my Milwaukee, which I just purchased, will not work with this item, which is a little bit strange, but something you should be aware of, as you may need an adapter for your dust collector. And finally, you'll get what they call a narrow drill guide, and this is perfect for setting up smaller stock like face frames. And that's everything that comes in this $2.99 kit, and you'll notice that there's no battery. Let's dive into this Kreg Rebel Pocket Joiner and take a tour of the tool. All this talk about pockets reminds me, what's the difference between a pickpocket and a peeping Tom? Well, a pickpocket snatches watches. Now my first impression with this tool is it feels fairly well made. It does have a metal body, but just like other Kreg tools, it does have a lot of plastic. And it feels just a little bit lighter than a domino joiner, coming in at 6 pounds 5 ounces. Let's take a look at the handle of the tool, as this is where you're going to be applying your force when you're drilling out your pocket holes. On the handle, you're going to find 2 knobs and 1 trigger. It's the knobs on either side of the handle that allow you to unlock the tool so that you can use it. Once either one of those gray knobs is depressed, you can pull the trigger on the bottom of the handle to initiate the tool. And it's right at this point in the video that I realized I didn't want to go forward with this video until I got a battery. So I took a trip to Rockler and picked one up. So with this $130 2 amp hour battery and charger in hand, let's take a look at the base of the tool. At the very butt of the tool, you're going to find the battery port, and this Kreg battery attaches like any other tool. Let's take a look at the front of the base, which is where you're going to find the adjustment feature to adjust the drill depth. Up here at the front of the tool, you're going to see there's 4 markings for 4 different thickness of material, including 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, and 1.5 inches. And I'll have to say I'm a little bit disappointed in the color of these markings, as they're very difficult to see with your naked eye. But it is nice it can accommodate material as small as 1/2 inch thick up to 1.5 inches, which is perfect for 2x4s. To adjust the depth of your drill bit, all you need to do is to press on the 2 gray tabs on the side, and the tool will automatically lock into place with a little click. And although very secure once it's in place, I'll have to say it's a little stubborn and can be difficult to get into place. Right above that drill depth adjustment adjustment is a little gray knob, and this is a micro adjust feature. Now this knob has got no markings on it, so I'm not quite sure how much it adjusts it, but if you turn it to the right, it actually decreases the depth, and if you turn it to the left, it increases. But just like with most pocket hole jigs, this is not the only adjustment you need to make with the tool. Let's take a look at the very front of this item. Just like with the drill depth, you can see there's 4 settings for the thickness of your material. Once again, including 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, and 1.5. To modify this tool for the thickness of your material, you're once again going to be dealing with some gray tabs that are located on the very front of the tool. By depressing both of those tabs, it will raise the latch so that you can slide that latch into one of the 4 detents, and it will click into place. And I'll have to say, it's a little finicky. It's not exactly what I would call a smooth transition. If we look at the very front of the tool, you're going to find a little L bracket, and this is made to rest up right against your material. And on the very tip of that L bracket or fence, you're going to find a little white line which will help you with alignment when you're trying to set your pocket holes. Now let's take a look at the center of the tool, which is where you're going to find that dust collection bin. This is a really incredible feature with this tool, as Kreg claims you can do up to 35 pocket holes with this bin. But we'll test out that claim later in this video. Now one thing that's really nice about this bin is it does have a detachable lid, which will make cleaning out that sawdust really easy to do once the tool's in use. Now one thing about this bin is that it's loose in the tool. Now I'm not quite sure whether or not this will cause any issues down the road, but it is one thing you should be aware of. But we mentioned earlier, this tool can also accommodate a dust collector. To do this, we simply take that dust collection chute and place it right into that bin and place the top in place. And by adding a dust collection hose, this may be very well the reason why that bin has got a little bit of wiggle, to give your dust collection hose a little bit of give. Now let's migrate down to the butt of the tool, which has another feature that I think is really unique. On either side of the base, you're going to find 2 gray tabs again. By simply depressing either one of these tabs, it releases a spring-loaded leg. It's these legs that allow you to level out the tool when your tool is not fully supported. By applying pressure on the front handle of the tool, you can depress either one of those gray tabs to release the legs and level out the tool. And these legs have a pretty extensive length, giving you a height of over 1 3/4 inches, so you can accommodate some of your larger stock. And finally, let's flip this tool around and take a look at the bottom side. On the very bottom side, you'll see there's some very thin ribbons of rubber to give you a grip on your material so it doesn't slide on you. And this works pretty well, but it's not perfect, and frankly, I wish they would have added some more rubber. And that about covers all you need to know about the physical features of this new Kreg Rebel joiner. Before we dive deeper into this joiner, I ask you to do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, and share this video, as it truly does help out this woodworking channel. And if you haven't already, check out my website, flynndoggwoodwork.com, where you can get access to all sorts of fun woodworking accessories like all the t-shirts that I wear in my videos, and I've even just released some new models. And if this Kreg Rebel intrigues you, I'll leave links in the description below so that you can go check it out for yourself. And finally, if you'd like to support the channel further, check out my channel memberships, where you can get early access to all my videos as well as 1 member video a week. Now let's get back to this joiner. So how do you set up this new Kreg pocket joiner for use? Well, let's take a look at it. Let's get back to that Craigslist thing. You know, I also bought a prosthetic arm from there. Yep, it was secondhand. The first thing that we need to do is to get a drill bit in here. Let's take a look at how that works. To do this, we're going to need to remove the drill. In order to do that, we need to press one of the locking tabs on the top handle. Once that tab has been depressed, we'll pull out on the black pin that's located on the right-hand side of the tool. Once that pin has been pulled out, we can move the handle forward until it's in its stowaway position. Then we can flip the tool around and depress the gray tab on the very back to the right. And with that gray tab depressed, the spring-loaded drill will pop right out of the base. And you're not going to believe how easy it is to attach this drill bit. Since the drill bits have those hexagonal locking tabs on the very end, this thing attaches like any other driver. If we look at the chuck of this drill, you can see it's got the same components as your impact driver. By simply pulling out on the tab, you can place that drill bit right into the drill and it locks into place. Then you can reinsert the drill into the spring-loaded base and it locks into place with a click. Then you can flip that handle back to its operating position and you're just about ready to go. Now let's do our first test cut with this unit using a piece of 3/4 inch stock. To do this, we'll first depress the 2 gray tabs on the top of the tool to set the drill depth for 3/4 inch stock. With our drill depth now set to 3/4 inch, we'll now adjust the settings on the front of the tool to 3/4 inch as well, by simply depressing the 2 gray tabs on front and moving the detent to 3/4 inch. And just like that, we're ready to start drilling some pocket holes into this 3/4 inch stock. Let's first take that fence and slide it up right against our material. With our pocket hole joiner ready to go, all we need to do is to place 6 pounds of pressure on that front handle. Then we can turn the tool on and pull back on the second handle until our pocket hole is made. And if we take a closer look at that pocket hole, you can see how crisp and clean it is. But you could also use that white marker on the very front. Let's strike a line on our plywood and see how well that works. With our white line on the tool lined up with our red marking, we can make a pocket hole and see how well these two lines line up. And that's just about perfect, especially for any pocket hole jig. And if you want to offset your pocket holes, you can even do that without making any markings, as there's a little step tool on the very front. By lining up your initial marking with the edge of the black tab, you're making an offset of 3/8 of an inch. And if you move to the next step, you're looking at an offset of exactly an inch. And the final step is at 1.5 inches. How does the featherboard with this new Kreg joiner actually work? Well, let's take a look at it. If we take a closer look at this featherboard, you can see it comes with two pieces that slide right into each other. This unique featherboard is ideal for doing things like face frames or drilling into smaller boards that don't have that much width. In order to use this thing, we first want to take the side that doesn't have the feathers and clamp it right to our work table. With that piece locked down, we can now take our other piece and slide it right on top. Then it's time to grab our piece of wood that we want to create our pocket hole in. If we look at the rail that connects the two pieces, you can see there's a scale on here, but you don't really need to use this. All you need to do is to place your wood in between the two jaws of the featherboard to get your measurement. Then you can lock the arm with the featherboard in place with a quick clamp. And with both clamps in place, you can see as we slide that wood right into that featherboard how the featherboard engages with that wood. And that's because there's just a little bit of difference between the jaw of the featherboard and the featherboard itself. But let's do a pocket hole on this rail. Let's first slide that rail right into the featherboard. With our rail in place, we can place the Kreg joiner right on top of that rail. And when doing rails like this, I think it's a better choice to stand in front of the tool instead of behind it. Then it's just a matter of applying 6 pounds of pressure to the handle that's closest to you and taking the secondary handle and pushing it forward. And if we remove that joiner, you can see how beautifully this pocket hole turned out. Now that we've learned how to use this bad boy, let's drill some pockets and test this thing out. Speaking of pockets, did you hear about that nurse that found a rectal thermometer in her pocket? Yep, she said some asshole's got her pen. So in order to test this joiner out, I want to first test this thing out on a variety of different types of material and see how it compares. So let's first start off with the easiest material in some respects with a standard 2x4. And the reason I say in some respects is because we're dealing with some of the thickest material that this joiner can accommodate. So we'll need to set the drill depth to 1.5 inches as well as the setting on the very front of the tool to 1.5 inches as well. With those settings in place, I can slide my 2x4 into that featherboard and fire up my joiner and make the pocket hole. And after we remove that joiner, you can see that this pocket hole is as clean as any other. Now let's try that same procedure using a piece of 3/4 inch plywood. And after doing this procedure and removing that joiner, you can see the results are just as clean. And finally, let's test this thing out on some good old-fashioned hardwood, in this case hickory, which is even harder than walnut. And you can definitely tell this hickory is giving this joiner a workout, but once it's all done, you can see that pocket hole is just as clean as ever. And if we compare the 2x4 to the plywood and even the hickory, you can see all these pockets look great and they're ready for screws. And if you're curious as to why that hickory isn't a complete oval, that's just because it's thinner stock. Next up, let's take a look at the dust collection with a dust collection hose attached. And I can already tell this thing's gonna work pretty well. As I turn on my hose, it immediately sucks up all those chips that we previously cut. But let's drill out a new hole and see how well this thing works in action. And you can see here as I make my plunge, this thing almost immediately sucks up all that sawdust. But now let's take that hose off and see how accurate Kreg's claim is that it can do 35 pocket holes in that dust collection bin. And here I'm just tackling as many pocket holes in this 3/4 inch plywood until I know the dust is escaping from that bin. This definitely doesn't work perfectly. I started to notice right about my 20th pocket hole that sawdust began to leak out the side of the dust collection chute. And you can definitely tell that bin begins to collect less and less sawdust the more holes you drill. If we look at the first few holes, you can see there's very little sawdust on the plywood. But if we look at the last few, you can see there's a ton of sawdust on that plywood. So not perfect, but definitely an improvement from having no dust collection at all. The last thing that I want to dive into is the difference in depths between that micro adjustment. And I think this is best shown by flipping that joiner around and taking a look at how much that drill bit protrudes out the bottom. If we flip that dial all the way to the right, which is going to back off that drill bit, you can see how much this bit protrudes out the bottom. Then in the same fashion, we can flip that dial all the way to the left, which is going to make that drill bit go as far as it can. And it appears from my point point of view, there's a difference of about 3/16 of an inch from its lowest setting to its highest setting. So a difference of about 3/32 of an inch up or down from its normal setting. So I think you can tell this tool's got some pretty interesting functionality, but it's not perfect. And frankly, it's not exceptionally cheap, especially when you consider the fact that you're probably going to have to get into a new battery infrastructure. And please don't be stupid like me. If this is your first Kreg cordless tool, make sure that you get a kit that includes a battery. Well, I sure had a whole lot of fun checking out this new Kreg Rebel Pocket Joiner, and I hope you did too. Do me a huge favor before you click off this video and hit that subscribe button, as it really does help out this woodworking channel, and I'm trying to get to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And if you haven't checked out my website already, go to FlynnDoggWoodwork.com, where you can get access to all sorts of fun woodworking accessories like all the t-shirts that I wear in my videos. And I've just released some new models, so you can go check them out there. And if this joiner or any other tools we took a look at today interest you, I'll leave links in the description below so that you can go give them a look for yourself. And if you're interested in supporting this channel further, check out my channel memberships, where you can get early access to all my videos as well as one member video a week. Until next time, take care as always. Yes sir, let's get it. So the other day I was out on the lake and I slipped my fingers right into her hole. I could tell she was getting wetter and wetter. She immediately went down on me. That's when I knew it was time to get a new boat. Too dirty? Come on. Let's try this one. So the other day, my ex-wife told me she's sick and tired of me mansplaining things. She said she was gonna throw me in a deep hole with water in it. I knew she meant well. Come on. All right, let's try. So my grandpa was always really popular with women. One day before he died, I asked him how he did it. He told me he inherited a watering hole. I was confused and asked him, what the heck does that have to do with anything? He told me he could get anybody wet because he was well endowed.